Somewhere on Earth is off to Sri Lanka, the sacred island in Singhalese. It lies off the coast of India like a tear in the vast Indian Ocean. Its rich land and location have made it a coveted prize. After several centuries of European presence and internal conflicts, the island has now recovered its serene splendor. Shaina is a student in gemology. Fascinated by precious stones, she's undertaking a journey to the heart of her land, to the origins of sapphires and rubies. She's off to meet the miners who toil in the depths of the earth. Jerome has flown with his balloon over the four corners of the globe. Childhood dream that now comes true in the early morning mists of Sri Lanka. Each flight is a release from earthly constraints. Jerome and his balloon drift with the wind to discover the wonders and people of this country. Dhammadasi is a monk. A keeper of age-old wisdom, he writes the words of Buddha on an ancestor of paper. His spiritual quest has led him to the summit of Sri Pada, the sacred mountain, a pilgrimage site for Buddhists as well as for other believers.
My entire life is based on the principles of Buddhism. I have no other ambition. I'm content with what I have. I've had the good fortune and strength to be able to teach, to spread the word of Buddha to many of the faithful. That's the goal I've set for myself.
Shaina is barely 20 years old. The journey she's setting out on will be like an initiation rite. Gemstones are one of Sri Lanka's greatest riches, and for Shaina, they are a family affair as well. She grew up among uncles and brothers, all gem dealers.
I'm a student of gemology. So now I want to learn more about gems, so that's why I'm traveling by bus to Ratnapura. Now I'm on the way to Ratnapura, so I hope to see some mines and rivers, and I hope to buy a gem from mine. So.
Ratnapura means the city of gems in Singhalese. The region has always attracted adventurers dreaming of riches. The route Shaina is following has carried countless famous stones out of the region and even across the seas, like the famous 104-carat Stuart sapphire, which after several centuries and numerous owners now belongs to the Crown of England. Ajit was born in this region. He's a gem miner, a risky job. Every morning he prays to Buddha to protect him while he's down at the bottom of the mine. The mine, a strange world unto its own, where reality seems distorted. In the almost total darkness, fear grips the belly. The heat, the humidity, these men sweat and toil, forcing the earth to give up its precious treasure. Ajit is the first to arrive at the mine, when the water-soaked rice fields are still shrouded in mist. First a fire, then a cup of tea to brace his nerves. During the night, the mine fills up with water. Every day, it's the same routine. Ajit has to start the pump to empty it out.
There are streams and springs all around the mine. It's a very marshy region. We're in the middle of a rice field right here. Plus, there's a whole network of abandoned galleries filled with water right nearby. That makes a huge store of water that seeps into our mine from all sides.
It's Shaina's passion for gemstones that has drawn her here to the source of those stones. The blue sapphires, rubies, and moonstones, legendary names that inhabited the tales of her childhood.
It's an adventure to travel by through-wheel, tuk-tuk. But it's good experience. I think this is the good way to discover about my project. So now I'm in a remote area. So I can't go by a car or another vehicle because the road is so thin. Only the three-wheel can travel in this road.
For more than 2,500 years, the gems of Sri Lanka have been woven into its very history. This region is home to hundreds of cottage industry mines. The galleries are dug in this damp terrain where rice is grown on the surface, and below, men grope through the mud for the key to their fortune.
What's the matter?
A bolt has come loose. I have to fix it. Hand me the wrench, please. It's a good solid machine. It may be a little rusty, but even so, it can carry heavy loads. There's no problem. They break down sometimes, but you can fix them quickly. Only 3 wheels, but you can count on them. They go anywhere. There's no problem. If it breaks down, we patch it up quick, and then we're off again.
Shaina's family has been dealing with Ajit for a long time. They encouraged her to come see him so that he could introduce her to this fascinating yet oppressive realm.
So this is where you work?
That's right.
How do you get down?
You see, there's a ladder here. You grab onto it and climb down nice and slow.
How deep do you go?
About 8 meters.
And tell me, what's a typical day like here?
We get to the site around 5:30, and we start the pump to empty the water that fills up the mine during the night. By 8:30, it's ready. While the pumping is going on, we prepare the beams to shore up the galleries. We cut them here, right nearby. When it's all ready, we let the water pump keep running, and we start the air pump. Would you like to go down and visit the bottom of the mine?
I don't know. I'm a little scared.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
Isn't it slippery?
A little, but it's okay.
You don't sink down into the mud too much?
No, no.
Spurred by hope, these men descend into the mine every day, again and again. They have to plunge into this other world that holds the promise of a discovery, a stone that could make all these men rich. And then, lit by no more than candles, they penetrate deep into the galleries, far from the surface and the world of the living.
All these beams here could collapse. And then you have to get out quickly. If the beams crack, we'll all be crushed. It's not very solid, and it's holding up all this heavy, heavy mud. It has collapsed before. Down here, it's a constant war between life, death, and the earth.
At the end of the gallery, the air is thin, the humidity at its maximum. And yet, that's where they have to work, to dig the vein with their bare hands, for the gems might be so close, right there hidden away in the mud. They caulk the walls with ferns, but that doesn't keep the water from flowing in. As for the stonecutter, he has to be careful and precise at every stage of his work. He knows very well that the slightest error could mar the gem and prevent it from fully reflecting the light it contains. Even worse, it could crack. His craft is comparable to sculpture. Starting with a rough, shapeless mass, he applies his skill to coaxing forth all the stone's seductive and hypnotic beauty.
This stone isn't worth much, but we found it in the vein. It's often right next to a precious stone. This is the kind of rock you'd use for decorating your garden, but we don't bother to bring them up. Sometimes right near this sort of stone, you can find white and blue sapphires, rubies, even alexandrites. It's a way of spotting a rich vein.
At work in a nearby stream, Ajit is dreaming of riches.
I dig the earth, and I earn enough for a living without having to bother anyone. Someday we'll come up with a big stone, and then we'll all be well off. That's what gives us the strength to go on.
The miner's eyes all burn with the intense hope of finding that one exceptional stone. China has discovered here a group of men who live by their courage and intuition. One needs luck, but even more important, the experience that no book can teach to unearth the stone. Shaina studied gemstones before coming to visit the mines of Ratnapura. She's seen a great deal of jewelry and exceptional stones. But what she has come here to find is the origin of those precious stones that Ajit plucks from the earth. The rough stones that will reveal their splendor only when they've been cut and polished.
This one is a ruby.
How big would it be when cut?
I think you get a 4 or a 5 carat stone from that.
I would really like to buy a star sapphire from you. And this one here, this blue sapphire.
These are all valuable stones.
Finding a stone at the bottom of a mine is very hard, and the buyers aren't always aware of the work it entails. This is why I came here. This is what I wanted to see.
A miner's life is very hard, but the days we do find a stone, we're really happy. This job is like searching for something invisible.
I'm very happy. I have no words to explain how my happiness. It's an adventure journey, but I have got a good experience. I'm back to my home with my lovable stones, lovable 2 stones, blue sapphire and star sapphire. My first 2 stones that I bought.
The story of these stones is as old as history itself. Jewelry, but also magic, medicine, and science. Ever since the dawn of time, they have exerted a fascination on all mankind. Jerome's different lives have taken him to the 4 corners of the globe. Scuba diving instructor, sailor, maitre d' on an ocean liner, and now hot air balloonist. He has flown in Egypt, Kenya, Tanzania, Libya, South Africa, Florida, and Burma. And last but not least, he has landed with his balloon here in Sri Lanka to fulfill his passion and at the same time earn his living by sharing it with others.
This is one of the most beautiful spots of Sri Lanka. It's an island in the middle of Lake Kandalama. We're lucky. We often fly over it in the morning. It's a bird sanctuary. There are little islands scattered all around, and this one here is the main island with its unspoiled nature. This is Sri Lanka, the real Sri Lanka, with the mountains all around, the tea plantations, the lakes, the birds, the thick, lush vegetation. We're really in Sri Lanka, and Kandalama is the very heart of Sri Lanka. You can't get any freer than a hot air balloon. The thing about a balloon is that you can't steer it. You just go with the wind, you follow its whims. You're a passenger of the wind, its guest. You adapt according to what the wind decides. You let yourself be carried. So it's true freedom, but freedom where the wind decides.
To glide along without a sound, to let yourself be carried by the slightest breeze. Jerome has found the perfect machine to enjoy the most stunning landscapes.
It's the most basic form of transportation. Apart from the propane, which is a petroleum derivative, all the rest is reed and cloth. It's really very simple. Nothing more than that bubble of hot air above, keeping us aloft.
Alone up in the air, Jerome calmly decides to go up a little higher.
We're getting there, 999 and 1,000 meters. That's it. Pretty cool, huh? There's no noise. Maybe you might hear a few dogs now and then, but it's total plenitude. Calm, absolute calm. 1,080 meters, all right. We'll start coming down now.
For Jerome, this is the fulfillment of a childhood dream. His first flight was with Jules Verne, through the pages of 5 weeks in a balloon. That book was a revelation for him. One day, he would be a balloonist. One century before Jules Verne's novel came out, 2 Frenchmen, the Montgolfier brothers, accomplished a remarkable feat. They invented the first apparatus to overcome the attraction of the Earth's gravity, thus opening the way to exploration from the sky. Jerome is carrying on this French tradition. He he's perpetuating the adventuresome spirit of those pioneers of hot air ballooning.
Hello.
You see that little brown patch down there? It's the kind of place where we can usually land. We won't this time because of the wind. It's a question of luck depending on what's down there. Now, the idea is to go down as low as possible and skim the treetops.
Hello. T'as les gamins qui courent vers nous là. Bye bye.
The problem is landing, especially in Sri Lanka. He has to aim for the zone between the flooded rice fields and the jungle. No easy task with a vessel that you can hardly steer.
Hang on, guys.
Up. Hello. Ende?
From which country?
Hello, France.
France.
Yes, France.
Each landing is an intense moment and a celebration. The surprise before this unexpected guest quickly gives way to a feeling of wonder.
The guy's gonna pull. There's like two or three, minimum 3 guys there. Pull, and he's gonna deflect like this. And some guys, they're gonna go on here so he doesn't go into the water, okay?
Jerome can always count on help from the villagers. Here in Sri Lanka, the whole community turns out spontaneously to lend a hand. This complicity with a population that knows how to work together is what mainly attracted Jerome when he came here 4 years ago.
Oh, no, coming. Okay, good.
The fishermen have dropped their nets several hundred meters from shore, and now everyone has been hauling on the ropes together for hours to bring the catch up onto the beach.
Ça te met vraiment les pieds sur terre parce que tu te rends compte que...
It really gives you a dose of reality because you realize that these fishermen, they spend 5-6 hours hauling their net in, all for a few kilos of fish. So really, hats off to them. They really have my respect. I don't know the language, so we don't speak much but through gestures and facial expressions. You can really get a feel for the country, for the people, for what they're living, and that's a humbling experience. Here we're sharing a moment, an effort, when we're all in tune with a common goal. And that's what's important, the sharing part.
Once the net is up on the beach, there's a grim silence as everyone sees how meager the day's catch is.
You learn that life isn't all that simple. It's not always easy. Today, there are people in the world who struggle and sweat to get what we get just by pushing a button. Whereas they have to work long hours and they do it in harmony and respect for nature. I can't really find the words to describe it, but It's a profound lesson in life.
When he first came to this country, Jerome had to lay the groundwork. The first thing he did was to spot the best landscapes for flying and the best spots to take off. He has the free use of cricket pitches and schoolyards.
I really love everything about Sri Lanka. I mean, it's not just the people. It's the country in general, the hospitality, everything. It's great weather every day. From November to April, you can fly practically every morning. There's good conditions almost every day. It's ideal for ballooning. It's just awesome.
But to fuel his passion, he has to go into town to stock up on the indispensable tanks of propane gas.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Jerome lives his life according to the rhythm of the sun, for he has to get his balloon aloft before it gets too hot. The difference in temperature between the air outside and inside the balloon is what produces this alchemy. At 5 in the morning, it's already 25 degrees Celsius. In 2 hours, it won't be possible to fly. For Jerome, hot air balloons are like poetry, useless, yet at the same time essential, to elevate one's soul and to contemplate the world.
Qu'on soit tributaire de la météo me plaît aussi.
I like that we depend on the weather. We're in harmony with the elements. We're at the mercy of every little breeze, temperature, the fog, a whole series of things that determine whether you'll be able to fly or not. And you're never sure.
Aujourd'hui, on vit dans un monde où tout est codifié.
Today, we live in a world where everything is codified. There's not really any more space for freedom. Whereas with Sri Lanka, not that it's a place where you can do anything you want, but there's much more space because it's virgin territory. What I'm really after is the nature, contact with the nature, contact with the people. And the balloon will give me that. It's really total freedom. Every morning I do a flight, and after that the day just whizzes by. It's fantastic.
Grandiose, quoi.
Damadasi was only 10 years old when he decided to dedicate his life to Buddha by becoming a monk. Here at the temple of Aluvihara, he is seeking to attain nirvana, the ultimate stage of enlightenment. Buddha said, "He who is master of himself is greater than he who is master of the world." By following the teachings and philosophy of Buddha, Dhammadasi has embarked on a spiritual quest that leads to enlightenment, to a comprehension of our reality.
Mind the thorns. Climb up a little higher. Is it a good frond? It's the fresh frond, right? Tie it good and tight. If it slips, it'll fall. Try to lower it nice and slowly, head first. Be careful it doesn't touch the other leaves.
Here at Aluvihara, the Buddhist monks are carrying on a tradition that's over 2,000 years old. It all starts in the heart of the jungle. The frond they've cut is sacred. Dhammadasi carries it to his temple, one of the oldest of Sri Lanka. It dates back to the period when Buddhism first arrived in the country in the 3rd century BC.
We're going to make a traditional prayer book. It's called a Puskalapute. We start by preparing the palm fronds that'll make up the pages of the book. It's an ancient tradition. It's remained unchanged ever since the early manuscripts. Writing is the monk's work, and it's all done with what the forest here around the temple can give us. It all comes from right here.
To produce his book, Dhammadasi repeats the gestures carried out by so many monks before him. They would inscribe on these leaves the teaching of Buddha, as well as all the learning of the time. Certain of these works are the only existing records of the region's history. Others give a comprehensive view of the knowledge of a bygone age in medicine and astrology.
I've been doing this ever since I was a small child. I stopped for a few years, but I learned it all here. I really like this work. I also know how to write Pali very well. It's an ancient Buddhist language used by the monks. The man who taught me how to hold the leaf in the stylus was a great monk, but he didn't teach me the art of writing. So I figured that by studying the sacred scriptures, I could learn on my own. And that's exactly what I did.
The temple of Nalanda Gedige has remained outside of time, far from the bustling modern world. The building is deeply suffused with spirituality. Dhammadasi likes to be off on his own when he's transcribing the sacred words of Buddha. This is the path he has chosen. It's his contribution to humanity.
The words and philosophy of Buddha were not written down right away. In the beginning, everything was transmitted orally, by word of mouth. Then they began to write on these leaves. From that moment on, the teachings were no longer deformed, because they were teaching what was written. I'm doing exactly the same work as the scribes of long ago, and they dedicated their lives to this task. I inherited this tradition, and it gives me great satisfaction.
Charana sampanno sugato loka vidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati sattha deva manusanang buddho bhagavati.
Kandy is the Buddhist city of Sri Lanka. It's home of the Buddha Tooth Relic Temple, a major place of worship and pilgrimage for Buddhists from the world over. Buddhism is the major religion here, and its influence can be felt everywhere. It plays a vital role in the spiritual, cultural, and political life of the country. As in all religions, the faithful make pilgrimages to the holy sites, voyages to the heart of their spirituality. The railroad that once transported Ceylon's tea down to the coast and that contributed to its reputation still rattles along, carrying the country's inhabitants. Every Buddhist in Sri Lanka hopes to make the pilgrimage to the summit of Sri Pada, the sacred mountain in the center of the country, at least once in their life. It thrusts up into the sky, a perfect cone, a bridge between humanity and the divine. Sri Pada. Legend has it that Alexander the Great, Marco Polo, and other famous voyagers came here to see the sunrise. The kings of Sri Lanka all made the journey here to bow to its eternal grandeur. Sri Pada is one of the rare places on earth that is venerated by Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims, and Christians alike. The belief is that Buddha himself left his footprint here. The Hindus, on the other hand, believe that Shiva danced on the mountaintop. As for the Muslims, they call this mountain Adam's Peak. Lastly, for Christians, it was St. Thomas who left his mark here.
Here, we're in the sanctuary of the god Saman, the Sita Gangula. It's an icy mountain stream. We purify ourselves, and then we will do our prayers. We have to purify our body, our thoughts, our heart. That gives us the force to undertake this journey.
The pilgrims wear white. Damadasi ties a coin wrapped in a piece of saffron-colored cloth around their wrist. They will deposit it as an offering when they get to the top of the mountain. Damadasi will accompany this pilgrim couple to the top. They've chosen a night of the full moon, a poya. In Sri Lanka, this is a time dedicated to spirituality. They set out early while it's still dark in order to get to the top for the sunrise. "4,800 steps to the summit. A prolonged effort, which allows one to exhaust the body in order to free the mind and attain enlightenment."
The final goal of all Buddhists is to reach nirvana, the ultimate state of being. With that goal in mind, we pay great attention to what we say. We learn how to dominate the violence that exists within each of us, in our gestures, in our thoughts. Buddhism teaches self-mastery. This is the wish of all Buddhists, and this is the path that will lead us to nirvana.
The tradition is that each pilgrim rings the bell upon arriving at the summit, once for every time they have visited this holy site. At an altitude of more than 2,200 meters, the sound fills the space and fires the faith of believers of all confessions. The manuscript that Damadasi is holding dates back more than 500 years.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Pujemi buddhang kusumena nena punyena metena labami mokkhaṃ.
I've already read this sacred book down below, but this is the first time I'm reading it here on the mountain, and it's a great honor for me. It's an incredible experience. It's thanks to my good karma that I've been blessed with this good fortune. It's the result of my past lives. My entire life is based on the principles of Buddhism. I have no other ambition. I'm content with what I have. I've had the good fortune and strength to be able to teach, to spread the word of Buddha to many of the faithful. That's the goal I've set for myself. I plan to continue studying and deepening my knowledge of this philosophy, and I want to follow this path as far as possible.
Somewhere on Earth is off to discover Rajasthan. This land rich in history embodies all the magic of India. Located in the north of the country, Rajasthan is bordered by arid plains and mountains. It's the ancestral land of the Maharajas, the last Rajput horsemen, and desert tribes. Pabu was born in the Thar Desert. He never left these steppes of his childhood. Pabu belongs to the tribe of the Bhils, the hunters. He has worked tirelessly at bettering the lives of the women and men of his community, the untouchables of the Thar Desert. Geraldine, on her legendary motorcycle, rides the roads of India and Rajasthan. After traveling in the US and Australia, this young French woman from Normandy landed in New Delhi. India, which she explores every day, has changed her life. Ajit is a horseman, a descendant of Rajasthan's warriors, the Rajputs, literally sons of kings. At 32 years old, he's continuing on the path of his family for 8 generations. Ajit is an ardent defender of the Marwaris, the horses of Rajasthan that nearly became extinct.
Here, we are at peace. All around us, there is only peace. I feel happy here, with my most loyal and best friend, my horse. This is a great moment for us.
The Thar, India's great desert. It's situated in the northwest of India near the Pakistani border. This expanse of sand, rock, and dust is the realm of scorching winds and storms that can obliterate everything. This is a territory of desolation, glacial cold in winter and blinding heat the rest of the time. Man has always known that deserts have no sense of hospitality, and yet the Thar is the world's most populated desert. Those who live here call it Marustali, the land of death. Pabu, a former nomad, is a man of the desert. He is an untouchable of the hunters' tribe, the Bhils, one of the lowest on the social scale. His life is hard, but Pabu is a happy man. The desert is part of him, and he is part of the desert. Nomad, big-hearted, free, and a musician. The Jaws harp, the oldest instrument in the world, keeps him company during his solitary nights in the desert.
All the desert people, my uncles, my dad, they all play this instrument. When they're tending to their herds and they're on the move, they always carry one. And even if you don't know how to play, you carry it anyway. And you learn as you go along, and you don't feel so alone. It's part of the people's life here.
Pabu has taken Gandhi's words to heart. Everything that you do in life will be insignificant, but it is very important that you do it. With the energy of his convictions and the daring of his dreams, Pabu is striving to find any and every means of helping his community of untouchables. In 2007, Pabu founded Malinbai, an NGO for tutoring school children and helping craftsmen and nomads, India's lowest social ranks. And so Pabu gave new life to the traditional crafts. He has agreed to buy what the artisans produce, rugs, potteries, cloth, which he then sells in Jaisalmer, the major city of the desert.
He is the only potter around Jaisalmer. The other potters are over 100 kilometers away. So if the villagers buy a pot there, it may break on the way back. That's why they're very happy to be able to buy a pot here. I have to travel very far, so I have to be very careful not to break any on the way. So I really have to test them well. Otherwise, my mother will complain to me. What have you done? It wasn't worth paying for. You hear that sound? You hear it? You can tell it's good by that sound. This one's good.
Pabu gives work to the poorest people living off in the far corners of the Thar Desert. Today, he has come to pick up some pots for his family and place a larger order of pottery. Like many nomadic families, Pabu's has become sedentary. He's off to visit his mother, and to get to her village, he has 2 hours of driving on trails across the arid steppe.
It's a very, very good car to use in the desert. It can carry 10 people, sometimes 11, sometimes even more. Because these people are all your family, you know, so nobody minds being crowded, really. It never breaks down, and if it happens to get stuck in the sand, you ask the whole family to push, no problems. So you can say that the rickshaw is really useful for the desert people here. Here, I brought you some pots. They come from the village of your ancestors. I bought them in Ada. I'm so glad to visit my family and bring them the pots, because what they really need here in the desert is to keep the water cool. And summer is coming, and in a month, it'll be really, really hot. So I brought pots for my mother. That first one there, that's for water. And these other two here are for making yogurt. And with the yogurt, we can make butter.
It is vital for those living in the desert to help one another out. It's a question of survival for the untouchables. This is the deep sense of Pabu's commitment in this harsh land where life is a struggle. Before, the untouchables, considered impure, were not allowed to draw water from the village wells. This is no longer the case. However, in the Thar Desert, the people at the bottom of the social ladder are still victims of injustice and even violence.
This is my dad's grave, but also my grandmother and my grandfather's graves. They don't respect the dead nor the graves. Look what they did. They can't stand us, not even our graves. It's just as if they killed me when I see all this. How can I tell you how I feel? I'm really, really sad about this. I never could have expected anything like this to happen. I can't believe this. This should never, never be. I'm in true despair, really. It's just incredible what they did. My God.
Pabu never loses hope. He possesses the strength of humility. In the middle of the desert, the humanitarian actions carried out by his association give him heart. In Rajasthan, the traditions linger on more than in other parts of India. Castes were abolished in 1950 after the country became independent, but the feeling of belonging to this hierarchical system is still deeply ingrained in the people's minds. Little by little, Pabu is building a reputation around Jaisalmer. He's the one who helps the untouchables. There are dozens of abandoned villages along the former spice and silk roads. The houses used to be inhabited by Brahmins, the caste of priests and scholars, the highest in the social order. A few untouchables have moved in. Pabu encourages them to carry on their traditional arts and crafts. His association, Malanbai, is a life-giving force here in the Thar Desert.
I used to live in a different village, along with 4 or 5 other families. We would make a kind of mixture, a resin for incense. We would come here to harvest it, and one day I just stayed and started working on my loom again. My grandfather taught this skill to my father, and he taught it to me. I've picked up weaving again, and now I'm the one carrying on the tradition.
The first carpet he made wasn't too good, because in over 20 years, he had forgotten a lot, but not everything. And then he got better and better, and now even the villagers come by and they say, "Oh, you're back, that's great. You're following in your father's footsteps." He would be very proud of you.
There has been water here for centuries. Existence revolves around a well. Life can take hold again in this abandoned village. Pabu has high hopes that his work will allow the villagers to settle here permanently, in spite of the harsh desert conditions.
I come to fetch water every day. The jug has no time to rest.
There are no other wells around here, so there are families from 5 or 6 different villages that all come to fetch water here. Hindu families, Muslim families, they sometimes come almost 10 kilometers away to get water here. They come on foot, by camel, or with whatever animal they have, even a donkey.
These nomads had to give up their wandering life. With Pabu's help, they've brought this corner of the desert back to life. Today, they're preparing for a ceremony to welcome a newborn baby into the world. The Thar Desert is the original birthplace of all the world's Romanis. More than 1,000 years ago, they set out from this bleak region on their voyages crisscrossing the globe. Every day in these arid steppes of northern India, children are born, learn how to walk, to speak, to sing, and to fight for survival.
It's important to have a boy. This big ceremony is for him. The mother already had 4 girls, so a boy is a joy for us. So we're going to make offerings. Today the baby gets his name. It's a very big day.
According to tradition, the shaman chooses the name and whispers it into the baby's ear. The newborn baby is called Jabra. He's a new son of the desert. The harshness of these vast open spaces gives the force to create a new life. Pabu's commitment to others is a promise that he renews every day, and he is always ready to take up the challenge of the desert. According to the words of Gandhi, everything that you do in life will be insignificant, but it is very important that you do it.
Animals give energy to us, so do the trees. Water dispenses life. Even when it's mixed with sand, it builds our strength. There's no better place for us. We were born here. Our blood is connected to nature here. When I say nature, I mean desert. That's what we love the most, the desert. We are all part of the desert here.
I have a problem with my bike, and you know where is the next village where I can go for repairing?
Geraldine is an adventurer. Here in India, she's living out her passion for travel. At 27 years old, this young woman from Normandy organizes motorcycle tours. Now she's scouting Rajasthan for new circuits to offer her clients, bikers like her in love with India's most enchanting side.
English? No English?
It looks good. I've been waiting a long time. I hope they understood what I want. Otherwise, we're up a creek.
Wow. Dania what, huh? For help. Very nice.
It was a bit rough to get there, but it didn't turn out too bad after all. It went very well, in fact. We'll probably share a tea afterwards.
Riding in India, like Geraldine is doing, is a trip back in time. Udaipur, Jodhpur, Ajmer, Jaipur, just the names of these ancient royal cities of Rajasthan is a whiff of exoticism and a call to travel. This state in the northwest is a vast region in the image of India itself, the planet's second most populated country. Every year, Geraldine covers thousands of kilometers on her bike. Her territory, Rajasthan, Ladakh, Nepal, Kerala. Geraldine is scouting out new circuits. Now she's on her way to the Ombana Temple, the goal of this reconnaissance trip. About 400 kilometers away, somewhere between Udaipur and Jodhpur, it has become a holy site dedicated to the motorcycle god. Seeing Geraldine pass through these remote villages is quite a surprise for the locals. A woman traveling alone never fails to arouse curiosity. India is a country where women's emancipation and advancement are an ongoing struggle.
Namaste ji. Kumbargar possible this way? Yeah? Gotcha. So, this is Kumbalgar, okay?
I'm trying to find my way. I'm looking for back roads, so the idea is to roam free. That's the charm of the motorcycle. 6 months ago, it was a very isolated village. You could reach it only by rocky trails. And now they've built an asphalt road. It's much easier to get there. This road is a chance to flesh out the circuits. I can pass through new places where people are still surprised to see me.
You wanna come?
It takes pluck to satisfy a yearning for adventure. On Rajasthan's trails and back roads, Geraldine is perhaps touching the heart of the Indians, for whom a free, independent young woman is something of a rarity.
I decided to go traveling, mainly in the USA and in Australia. From there, I came to India, initially because I had a great job offer, but also because India is such a colorful country. I had such a vivid image of it. I had no idea what I was in for. This place really touched me. I just fell in love with the country, with the motorcycle, and with an Indian man.
This land of contrast and legend would change her life. Geraldine decided to settle here and even get married.
We're in the heart of the Aravalli Mountains, a range that stretches 700 kilometers north to south, from Delhi to Gujarat.
It's
the only hilly part of Rajasthan. All the rest is plains and desert. The winding roads are a real treat for us bikers. It's a true privilege to be able to ride in a setting like this. You find yourself in landscapes that you could never have imagined. Just 1 hour riding and you're doing trails, and that's when you really appreciate it. You think, I've earned this. It's such a gift. You can easily get attached to the Royal Enfield. It was my very first motorcycle, so of course I have a soft spot for it. I also like it for other reasons. It has an incredible look. It makes this really wild noise. When we go through the little villages and out in the countryside, the people are delighted to see us on their motorcycle, because after all, it is the emblematic motorcycle of India. It's a very old bike. It has its vintage charm.
Geraldine is riding a legend. She has found the ideal way of discovering this mythical country. The story of this motorcycle goes back to England of the late 19th century. At that time, it was manufactured in a factory that also made guns, revolvers, and ammunition. The slogan for the motorcycle was, "Made like a gun, runs like a bullet." During World War II, on D-Day, these motorcycles landed with the Allied forces on the Normandy beaches. After independence, the Indian Army was equipped with Royal Enfield bullets. It was produced in the south of the country and became a symbol. For 7,000 kilometers away, in Old England, the production was running out of steam, and the world was changing. In the late 1960s, an Indian engineer bought the blueprints of the motorcycle. It's no longer an elderly English lady. The Royal Enfield became a young Indian woman, and with its retro style, as timeless as India itself. Geraldine doesn't speak Hindi, one of the country's 22 official languages. In India, only a minority of the population understands English. In Rajasthan, the language barrier adds a little spice to her adventure, but Geraldine's motorcycle is an ideal passport.
What I like the most here is the people. That's what keeps me here. When I look off to the side of the road, I see people with their faces just beaming with smiles. They try to stop us. Sometimes we'll give them a ride and drop them off 5 kilometers further on. Other times, we'll pick up school children who have to walk 10 kilometers every day. They're glad to get a ride. That's the thing I love here. It's something you can't find anywhere else on earth.
You can't visit Rajasthan without hitting the big cities of this land where the heart of India beats. On her way to the holy temple of the motorcycle, Geraldine makes a halt in Udaipur. This city is an important stopover on the motorcycle tours she leads. Udaipur is a must for visitors in search of tales and wonders.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Geraldine is meeting one of the most respected men of the region, the Maharaja of Udaipur, a descendant of India's oldest family of aristocrats. The kings no longer play a part in politics. All the Maharajas are responsible for opening their palaces to visitors.
Oh, how nice.
Yes.
You live and you live for today. So whatever you do, you've got to make it relevant to today. What was relevant 100 years ago, our forefathers did. We have to do and we have to live in a manner which is relevant for today.
Geraldine, along with some of the dignitaries of the city, has been invited to a special ceremony at the palace. The Maharaja is celebrating his birthday. In India, splendor and the extraordinary often exist side by side with the most modest lives. This is what Geraldine would like to bring others to discover. 400 kilometers later, she arrives at Ombana, a holy site, a temple dedicated to the motorcycle. Spirituality is everywhere in India. All superstitions, all miracles are possible in this land where the gods number in the thousands. Hundreds of voyagers stop here every day. They come to solicit the protection of the god of bikers and the open road. Around 20 years ago on this spot, Ombana died riding a Royal Enfield. People say that after the accident, the motorcycle came back to the scene of the tragedy all on its own. This is why a temple has been erected on the side of the road here. Ever since, this motorcycle has been an object of worship.
This is the famous Enfield of the accident. It's an old bike between 40 and 50 years old, and they haven't touched it. It's just as it was at the time. Everyone brings it offerings. They all come to deposit flowers, food, sweets, money. Any kind of offering is valid to be blessed with luck. Right, that's it. It's all about luck.
Swaha, Om Raksha Raksha Swaha, Raksha Raksha Swaha, Raksha Raksha Swaha, Raksha Raksha Swaha. Om Sasena Indovasha Sasena Pukaja Sasam Vaspati Namadado. Om Sasena Indovasha Sasena Pukaja Sasam Vaspati Namadado. Om Sasena Indovasha Sasena Pukaja Sasam Vaspati Namadado. Om Sasena Indovasha Sasena Pukaja Sasam Vaspati Namadado. Padmasne Lakshmi Daini Vancha Purnim Riddhim Siddhim Jayam Jayam Vijayam Vijayam Guru Swaha Om Ashasya Shyavshai Nama Raksha Raksha Tattata Swaha.
I've been blessed. I can get back on the road at peace. At least for the next few weeks, I'll be protected.
Namaste.
In India, tradition and modernity meet head-on. It's a world where everyone's destiny is in the hands of the gods. For Geraldine, it's not only a country born from the realm of legends, she has found her part of the dream here as well.
I'm waiting for Praveen, my future husband. We're going to continue the trip together. He shouldn't be long now.
Hey baby, how are you?
For Geraldine, a new life is waiting just around the corner here in 21st century India. In a few months, she will marry Praveen, a Bollywood dancer from New Delhi. But that's another story. Ajit grew up in the land of the Rajputs, the warriors of Rajasthan. For centuries, the Rajputs fought alone against all comers. Their courage was unequaled, except by that of their mount, the Marwari horse. It's one of the oldest breeds of horses in the world. Had it not been for the passion of a few horse breeders, these Indian thoroughbreds might have well disappeared 30 years ago. According to the legend, the horses of Rajasthan were born of the vast ocean. As for the men, incredible proud horsemen, they are the sons of the moon, fire, and the sun.
There are no words to describe this. There is energy all around us, and at the same time, it is very, very peaceful. There is peace everywhere, and nothing else. I feel happy here, with my most loyal and best friend, my horse. There is everything we need here. I go out riding every morning, and even sometimes in the evening. These are the best moments of my life. I am enjoying this so much.
I'm enjoying this.
I enjoy reading ancient books, as long as they have anything to do with horses. They are fascinating, and I try to apply that knowledge to my own activity. For instance, how to choose and buy a good horse, what their habits are, how to tame and train them. These old books are filled with excellent teachings, written by famous horsemen from the old days, and their knowledge is still useful today. Horses are at the very core of our existence here.
Their knowledge.
The blood of the Rajputs has been intimately linked to Rajasthan's history for over 1,000 years. In Sanskrit, the name of this warrior caste means sons of kings. When they were not driving back the Muslim invaders, these horsemen were combating the Mughal armies, the descendants of Genghis Khan. And when they were not at war, the Rajputs were engaged in fratricidal feuds. Since ancestral times, they had been raising armies of horsemen, fearsome warriors serving the lords of India. Nobility of soul, a code of honor, and chivalrous pride define the character of the Rajputs. In Rajasthan, the men and their horses have left their mark on history and bear witness to their illustrious exploits in war. Ajit is a worthy heir of this prestigious tradition.
These ancient warriors were famous for their bravery. What would happen in those royal families when they waged war was that when one of them died on the battlefield, most of the kings had tombstones built in their memory. The kings would erect these monuments, these cenotaphs, in commemoration.
On lake and riversides, all over, one can observe these cenotaphs, impressive tombs of the Rajput warriors. Certain were erected in honor of the warriors' wives, who committed sati by immolating themselves on their husband's funeral pyre.
Sometimes when I have time and feel the need to find my inner calm, I come here with my horse. I guess I come here more or less twice a month. To see these warriors and their horses fills me with happiness. I come here to renew my energy, so it really does me good. I feel very, very happy here.
The horse is considered a god in Indian mythology. It is superior to all men. The Marwari is a war horse, spirited, resistant, tough, and dependable. Legend has it that the gods fought over this horse. Perhaps the horseman's eternal kingdom looks something like these semi-desert plains of Rajasthan. This is where Ajit lives. His ancestors settled in this dry riverbed more than 200 years ago. In Ajit's family, the men have been horsemen and breeders of thoroughbred Marwaris for 8 generations.
As you know, I was an assistant professor at the Udaipur University. There I got a PhD in Hindi literature. Unfortunately, in 2003, my father died in a car accident. At that point, I had a choice to make between 2 paths. The first one would lead me far away from horses, and the other one far from my previous life working with horses. I decided to choose the path with the horses. It was the most difficult path, and it still is a hard one, because we have lots and lots of problems. But then again, we are very proud of our trade. We are simply happy. Our ancestors from the previous generations must be happy with this choice as well, somewhere up there, because we still own horses, and we still work with them.
It is an unchanging ritual. Every morning, Ajit comes to say hello to his horses. He considers them his children and spends all his time on them.
Ears are very important.
The ears are very important for the Marwari breed. They're curved inward and round. One can say curly ears or rounded ears. There's an old legend, a very, very old legend about that. There was a Rajput warrior. He was praying to the goddess Durga. The goddess was happy with the warrior and asked him what his fondest wish was. Because the warrior was crazy about his horse, he answered, "I would like my horse to have something special. In particular, My horse's ears are not beautiful enough. I don't like his ears. So Durga asked her worshipper how he would like the ears to be. The warrior responded, I would like his ears to be like my mustache, curled up into a point. Durga granted his wish, and ever since, all the Marwari horses have ears like this. As you can see, the goddess did a wonderful job.
Ajit and his horses are getting ready for a long voyage. Before each departure, he asks his mother for her protection.
A mother's heart is fragile and worried for her son. May he return safe and sound. I give him my blessing. I tell him to hurry back, and I tell him, be careful, my son.
To support his horse farm and develop his business, Ajit organizes mounted processions and parades for weddings and the major religious celebrations. Every year, he and his horses cover thousands of kilometers through India and Rajasthan. Winter is the busy season for marriages and a variety of ceremonies. Ajit and his horses have just a few months to parade before the public. He does about 100 events a year.
This ceremony you are witnessing is part of the Jain religion. They had an old temple that they just finished restoring. And today they are celebrating its inauguration. This celebration is going to last 14 days.
Now the Marwari horses are little by little recovering the place they formerly held in Indian society. In the exuberance of these traditional festivals, Ajit's horses mingle with the gaily colored dancers. At the end of the colonial period, the Marwari breed was on the threshold of extinction. The English had transformed this horse, the messenger of God, into a common beast of burden. In Rajasthan, this horse is an object of worship. They say that this Indian thoroughbred is the fruit of the union between a black stallion of the desert and a beautiful blonde-coated mare. In upper-class marriages, it is the custom for the groom to go meet his bride riding a white horse, the symbol of purity. The Marwari also embodies India's romantic spirit. The origin of the Marwari horse is lost in the mists of Rajasthan and its ancestral legends. Thanks to the work begun by his father, Ajit is now one of India's most ardent defenders of this horse.
The Marwari breed used to be very common, but starting in 1910 and until 1940, they went through a very hard time. When the English were in charge of India, they tried to wipe the Marwari out. They wanted the royal families to give up the breeding of the Marwaris because they wanted to force us into taking on the Occidental way of life. During those difficult years, the herds of Marwari horses were in severe decline. And now there are very few left. But we are trying our best to save the breed.
Without the determination of a few horsemen, the last 500 specimens of Marwari horses would have gone the way of the dinosaurs. By perpetuating the race, Ajit has become a militant defender of the Rajputs' chivalrous past. Japan is a land of extremes. Situated on the Pacific Ring of Fire, this archipelago still bears the scars of a tumultuous birth. This living volcanic land thrust up from the ocean depths. Its tormented nature brought forth masterpieces and has swallowed up numerous enigmas. Here, off the eastern tip of Asia, there are men and women who pursue their passions in a relentless quest for perfection. Going beyond one's own limits has been raised to an art. A marriage of nature and tradition that has left its mark on this land of the eternal. Tropical south, the long ribbon of the Ryukyu Islands stretches out over 1,200 kilometers. These islands differ from the rest of Japan by their history, their language, and their traditions. A quiet corner of the world lapped by the East China Sea. Here in the westernmost part of Japan rise the cliffs of a little island of 29 square kilometers, Yonaguni. Its nearest neighbor is Taiwan, 110 kilometers away. Shotaro Maja was born and bred here, and this remote island holds no secrets for him.
I could never live anywhere but near the sea. I'm one with it. I feel the sea that's all around me. It's as if I were flying. It's something you can experience only in the water. I feel as if I'm traveling through space. It's a very special environment. There's no high school on Yonaguni. So after middle school, I went to Okinawa, the main island. And the fact of leaving my island made me realize just how magnificent the sea is here at Yonaguni. That's why I came back, and I'm glad I did, because my roots are here.
When Shotaro came back to live on his island, he brought along his wife and son. Here, he's taking you and Kylie to discover a significant sacred site. In the Ryukyu Islands, they practice ancestor worship and fear the power of the shamans.
This is a monument in honor of Sanai Isoba. She was a great shaman who ruled the island of Yonaguni a long time ago. Sanai Isoba had 4 brothers, and they ruled over the villages of Tategu, Danu, Datubaru, Debaru. She ruled from the center of the island and could see everything. If invaders came, she could protect the island. Do you understand?
The Ryukyu Islands are steeped in legends that are handed down from generation to generation, indifferent to the trends of modern Japan.
Hi, Dad.
Hello.
In 1985, Kiyashiro Aratake, a professional diver, discovered an extraordinary underwater site. He's totally convinced that it is an archaeological ruin.
If we find any traces of human activity, we'll try to have this structure declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We have to focus on the dolmen, the turtle sculpture, and the triangular basin. We have to look for evidence, in particular, in the holes that held the pillars. We have to measure the depth. That's where we have to start. And around the turtle, we have to see if there's anything left there.
How did it feel when you discovered this site?
It was around the time you were born. It was like a vision. I was in the water, but I felt like I was flying. The water was crystal clear. I thought I was dreaming. I thought, what is this? It was as if I was looking at Machu Picchu from the sky. I had goosebumps. I thought maybe I'd gone crazy. That's how overwhelmed I was.
Now it's up to Shotaro to solve Yonaguni's underwater mystery.
When I was in middle school, it was easy to get down to the water from here, but then the ledge collapsed. I haven't been here in quite a while. This is one of Yonaguni's landscapes that I really love. The rocks here are so characteristic. From here, they look like steps. It looks very archaeological, but the site my father discovered is much bigger and really seems man-made.
Several times a year, Yonaguni is buffeted by violent typhoons. In April 2015, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the island. The threat of a tsunami is ever present, so the islanders live in a state of permanent alert. Yonaguni looks like a besieged fortress. The inhabitants of Okinawa practice singular funeral rites. The round tombs symbolize the mother's womb. By returning to it, the deceased are completing the cycle of reincarnation.
In Okinawa, all the generations are buried in the same tomb. We should preserve this tradition. This tomb will be the final resting place for me, for my two sons, and their children after them. I think it's very important that we continue on as a family, even after death, that we all stay together. I believe that each element of culture possesses a soul. We should pass this heritage on.
Once a year, the men of Yonaguni launch the Sabani, a sacred boat, to thank the gods for their past blessings and to ask their future protection. Their ancestors, fishermen and intrepid voyagers, ventured far from the archipelago on board these unstable, hard-to-steer boats. Kiyashiro has mastered the art of steering the Sabani. The weather has finally calmed down. Shotaro and his father head for the underwater site to continue their investigation. Kiyashiro, pioneer in diving in the Ryukyus, was the first to create a dive center here and has trained hundreds of divers. Now his son is carrying on his work.
Take this with you. Okay, let's go.
Just a stone's throw from the world of humans, we find strange, somewhat menacing creatures standing guard over one of the world's most enigmatic sites. Some people think that these are the ruins of a long-vanished civilization. Sophisticated scientific techniques like carbon-14 dating have shown that a few thousand years ago, this site was above water. Now it's widely accepted that the base is natural. But for many observers, its shape was modified by the hand of man between 6,000 and 10,000 years ago. With its east-west orientation, irrigation ditches, basins, regularly spaced holes, the stairways and geometric sculptures, this 180-meter-long site is potentially the greatest discovery ever made. Testimony to an extremely advanced civilization, predating even the time of the pharaohs.
This spot is truly mysterious. We had several archaeological experts here from abroad, and we also had Japanese geology professors who came to study the site. But why is this thing here? We don't know. We still don't know exactly what it is. I hope that other teams will come and do the necessary research to one day solve the mystery.
History and tradition, the lifeblood of the Yonaguni Islanders. It takes a long apprenticeship to master the traditional dance form of Okinawa, a discipline that is as much a spiritual exercise as a martial art. In feudal times, only the elite had the right to bear arms, so the peasants used their scythes to defend themselves. The hat is used to hide the sword and also serves as a shield. Yonaguni is a land outside of time. Shotaro is once again enjoying the peace and quiet of his childhood home, an island with a wealth of treasures. The rare and expensive yakogai is a shellfish endemic to the island.
It looks good. Would you like to try it? You're eating it without sauce? Is it good? Yeah, it's good. This is Japan. This is Okinawa. And it's something else as well. It's almost like a foreign country. We speak our own language here. This place is one of a kind.
Yagi is highly proficient at a dangerous and little-known discipline. She is the ice climbing champion of Japan.
I'm really a bit weird. Normal people go shopping, go to the movies, meet other people. They have jobs. They lead a normal life, a simple life without ups and downs. But me, I'm a bit special. That's why I climb ice. Here's how I do it.
Nae has forsaken the comforts of a conventional lifestyle in order to pursue her passion, to the point of completely remodeling the interior of her home.
I used to work in an office. So every morning I'd put on my suit, take the train, I'd fix myself a bento. But I'm much happier now.
Nae is preparing an expedition to a little-known and dangerous climbing site.
Nature scares me sometimes. It's as if I were going to meet a new, very strict boss. Oh, it's heavy.
On Japan's main island, Honshu, the overpopulated valleys are surrounded by magnificent mountains. With peaks of over 3,000 meters, the Japanese Alps rise like ramparts against the bustle of human activity. Sugadera, in the region of Nagano, harbors a well-guarded secret that only the most skilled climbers dare tackle. Ed Hannum, a seasoned mountaineer, is an expert in ice falls. 12 years ago, this Australian fell in love with Japan and its mountains. It's the end of the winter, and ice is becoming rare. With the mild weather, certain ice falls have melted.
And what do you think? Condition good or not?
I don't think it's any good anymore. I think the ice in the upper section is maybe okay. It's still thin, but it hasn't collapsed yet. But the stuff that looks good when we get there might not be.
I'll let you go alone.
No, I'm afraid too. I'll just sit tight.
So most people, that's their idea of hell, not their idea of fun. And if you're attracted to things like danger and strategy and planning and carrying a heavy backpack, but ice climbing is perfect. You know, you can get all your thrills in one go.
Ed, this is really hard.
You can do it.
Ed and Nae are determined and persevere in their quest for ice. But the conditions are particularly bad today.
Mother Nature isn't making it easy for us.
I don't know if it's good or not. I can't actually see the waterfall. It's in here somewhere. It was there before. I can hear the waterfall, which is not a good thing. To go ice climbing, it's always in a difficult place. It's always a gamble. The weather's always against you. The season's always short. Half of the danger is just getting there in a way. Climbing the ice is only a small part of it. So on the days when it doesn't work, I really don't worry about it. So there's only two things in the world I think that are true. One is quantum physics and the other is mountain spirits. And today, yeah, the mountain spirits are just saying no. No, and quantum physics will explain it in a different way, so.
That's how it is. It's all part of ice climbing.
Nae and Ed will just have to bide their time. They'll come back at the next cold snap, if the mountain spirits are willing.
Truth is, I'm always afraid. Afraid of the ice, afraid of nature, afraid of people. I don't have enough self-confidence. I worry. So I took up ice climbing to combat that. I hike in the mountains. I think about myself, my life. That scares me too. because it means facing up to myself.
真実を見ることだと思うからすごい怖い。
At 31, Nae is at the peak of her discipline. She has been able to confront her doubts, to rise to the top of an extremely demanding sport.
Long time no see.
How's it going?
Great, thanks.
Taiki and his forebears have been the guardians of Yatsugatake Refuge for 4 generations. They used to bring the supplies in by foot. Now, this little customized van saves them hours of hard work, even though it only does 6 kilometers an hour, walking speed. Taiki's Refuge is a base camp for climbers. It's known for its unusual structure of man-made ice, the ice candy.
I got this at the Sochi Olympic Games. I took part in a climbing demonstration so that ice climbing can become a recognized discipline. As I was representing Japan, I stuck the flag on my helmet, and after that, I kept it. I know a lot of climbers who'd like to have one like it.
The ice candy is a place to train and organize meets in relatively stable conditions. It's rebuilt each winter and offers a range of climbing difficulties.
It looks good here.
Now it's your turn.
Oh, it's cold.
In the 70s, thanks to new tools and techniques, ice climbing revolutionized mountaineering and opened the way to new conquests by routes that couldn't have been imagined previously. Competition is much more recent. The Ice Climbing World Cup was created only in 2000. Nae has already taken part in 20 international championships.
Sports has allowed me to accomplish what was impossible before. I'm becoming a better person. Climbing has led me to evolve. All right. Let's try that again. I always push my limits. I struggle with myself. I struggle against nature, but I also draw on its force to go forward and never give up.
The country has 27,000 hot springs. For centuries, these onsen have been part of daily life for the Japanese. They believe they purify the mind and body.
Rest, training, and a healthy diet are essential if you want to make a good climb. When you climb on ice, your fingers and feet freeze. Your back stiffens up. You're always climbing in very cold spots. The best way to relax is to get your body warm in an onsen. Then you're ready to return to the ice.
In the Shinto religion, Suijin is the god of water, associated with all its earthly and heavenly manifestations.
There are gods everywhere I go. The gods let me know that they're always present, that they're watching me. They're challenging me.
One of the main characteristics of the Shinto religion is a great respect for nature. The divinities exist in all its aspects. The role of the priest is to harmonize the relations between humans and the forces of the universe.
For the Japanese, mountains are not simply mountains. They are also dwelling places of numerous gods. Climbing is not merely a sport. When a Japanese climbs a mountain, it's to get closer to the gods, to grow in body and soul. Mountaineering in Japan began as a path to spiritual awakening.
The gods have answered Nae's prayers and are offering her this one last chance to tackle a frozen waterfall before the end of the winter. Danger is ever present on the natural climbing sites. There's falling ice and rocks, but also avalanches, extreme cold, wounds from the sharp climbing equipment. So many dangers, and always in isolated spots.
Nowadays, life expectancy is very long, whereas one's competitive years are very short. So now, I'm concentrating on climbing natural ice. I place myself in nature's hands. The ice and mountain have many faces, always changing. It's always a new encounter. As we say here in Japan, ichi-go, ichi-e. One encounter can change one's life, and that's what I like.
Ondekoza means demon drummers in Japanese. For 46 years, it has also been the name of a group of virtuoso musicians. They play the traditional Japanese drums, the taiko. Naoto Kinoshita is the youngest member of Onde Koza. For 3 years, he has been running every day, an integral part of the troops' daily routine.
We go running every morning at 6, whatever the weather. Wind, rain, typhoon or snow. We run no matter what. The members of Onde Koza follow a particular life code, the Soga Kuron, a philosophy that combines music and running. Running every day enables us to forge the physical and mental strength that characterize Onde Koza.
The Sogakuron lifestyle and the taiko have given meaning to Naoto's life. The taikos, entirely handmade, are true works of art. The skills needed to make them go back several centuries. It takes 5 years to produce one of these drums, from carving the wood up to placing the drum head. Just to change the heads can cost over $10,000, so proper maintenance is of utmost importance. The drums have to be taken to the workshop every 5 years to be tightened. Each jack exerts 3 tons of pressure, 24 tons all told.
You should feel a difference between here and here.
Is the middle okay?
Like that. Jump as if you were trying to pierce the hide.
It sounds better here. These are natural surroundings. I'm looking for the spot where the drum resonates the best.
The troupe, founded in 1969 by Den Tagayasu, is now headed by Matsuda. It began with a handful of enthusiastic young people attracted by the founder's vision of communal life and ready to take on the taiko and raise it to an art form.
This drum weighs around 60 kilos. This one about 70. This one 80 kilos. Our biggest drum weighs 360 kilos.
In ancient times, the drum had military, religious, or simply festive functions. But it had another function as well. It determined the geographic limits of a town. The further the sound carried, the larger the territory, which explains the very big drums. Koza members are renowned for their musical talent, but also for their top athletic condition. The effort demanded during a concert is equal to the 42 kilometers of a marathon. They've done entire tours where they ran from one concert to the next. During a tour of the United States, they ran a total of 15,000 kilometers. They've also taken part in a number of major races, notably the Boston Marathon.
We set up the taikos at the finish line, and then as soon as we crossed it, we played. Another time, in China, we clocked over 2,500 kilometers in 3 months. We were running about 30 kilometers every day, 7 days a week.
Once, Yoshi had a 40-degree fever, but he ran, stopping every kilometer. I was behind him thinking he was going to die, but he made it to the finish.
The troupe lives as a community and follows a somewhat monastic lifestyle. Here, in the mountains near Shishibu, in a former school, the cries of children have been replaced by the echoes of mantras and taikos. Every day, Tommy, Yoshi, and Naoto practice tracing a mantra in Chinese characters with their left hand, an exercise to sharpen their concentration. The text was not a random choice. It carries the symbol of their ascetic way of life.
This mantra contains an ideogram that is quite common, Ke. It's a very interesting character. It can signify the void. It's present in a number of words. For example, in the word for air, Ke, ki. Ke means everything we can't see, but which exists. That's what Ke means for me.
No, that's not it. It's double time.
Oh, double time. In itself, the taiko is rather simple. You hit it, and it makes a sound. But if you want to get a rapid, clean, pleasing, ample sound, it takes hours of practice to master the technique.
He's absolutely right.
Yoshi is the most experienced drummer. This virtuoso has been playing for more than 25 years.
It's tricky. Hard to catch the rhythm. Let's simplify it.
I feel some kind of fear because every move I make creates a sound. I want to push myself to test my limits. It's only through practicing every day that I can improve my performance and improve myself. Naoto Kinoshita.
Okay, that's enough.
I live in a community, so I'm hardly ever alone. My moments of solitude are important to me. They are very precious. We Ondekoza, we make our own drumsticks because our arms are not all the same length, because we don't have the same hands, the same strength. We prefer to have our own custom-made sticks. Making our own tools allows us to deepen our self-knowledge.
The Ondekoza troupe was born from the desire to keep the ancestral traditions alive. In Japanese culture, the boundary between art and craftsmanship is imperceptible. In Shishibu, they use the crystal clear water of the Ogawa River to produce a paper of an exceptional quality, following techniques going back 1,300 years.
This is how you do it.
Oh, that's all?
Yes.
That's fast.
This sturdy paper is used to make kites, lanterns, and for calligraphy. A treasure classed intangible cultural heritage since 2014.
Thank you. We'll use it to make posters for our Matsuri. Please come if you have time.
Write Matsuri big here.
Every year at the spring equinox, the community holds open house during a Matsuri, a folk festival.
It's like music. Each person has his own tempo. I will write Ondekoza.
Okay.
The Matsuri is also one of the rare occasions when the musicians can visit with their families. The opportunity for Naoto to introduce his niece to taiko.
I don't know how to do that.
My work and my personal life are inextricably mixed. My life is always the same. I never take a break. Other people I know, they have a normal job. They have vacations. They can have a family. I'm happy for them, and that's enough for me.
Thanks to their communal lifestyle, the members of Ondekoza have achieved a harmony off as well as on stage, a near telepathic symbiosis. the company, Genkayo Ilogelu, means push your limits.
I don't really know my limits. Those my brain recognizes are not the real ones. I think there's still a lot of force stored up somewhere. I'm striving to draw on those last resources to attain my true limit. But as I keep pushing it further, it keeps receding.
Today, Somewhere on Earth is taking you to Central Asia, to Kyrgyzstan, where the population lives in harmony with nature. The Kyrgyz, a semi-nomadic people of horsemen, carry their cultural heritage with pride. The country is a former Soviet republic, and since its independence in 1991, it has been rediscovering its roots and is now showing the rest of the world the extent of its riches. This territory is home to a marvelous variety of wildlife and rewards the intrepid traveler with a pageant of an unspoiled realm that is still largely unexplored. The mountains have protected the country and molded its culture and traditions. At the heart of the rural society are the Zhelus, the high mountain sites where the Kyrgyz set up their summer encampments to graze their flocks on rich pastures until winter reclaims the peaks. In the Ters Valley in the west of the country, 13 families of herders share the Zhelo, situated at an altitude of 2,600 meters. Muskat Borochev lives in this valley. He's devoted body and soul to the Kyrgyz horses. Here, the horse enjoys a privileged status, for according to an ancient proverb, horses are the wings of man.
I grew up with horses. I loved them ever since I was little. They stir my imagination. Life wouldn't be possible for us without them. I love life out here in the pasture lands. It's how I recharge my batteries. A gylo without horses just isn't a gylo. I love my horses, so I try to find the best spots for them. When they're happy, I'm happy. Everyone enjoys a different aspect of grazing the animals. For me, it's when my mind drifts off into a daydream.
Once a day, Muscat rounds up the herd, which may be scattered over several kilometers. There are no pens, no corrals. The animals are allowed to roam freely. The mountains form natural barriers for the cattle.
Hold it lower down. Go ahead. Don't be afraid. Okay, slip it around its neck. If we move the mare away from her foal, She could very well kick us. We bring her foal close to her, so that way she stays calm while we milk her. Plus, she'll give more milk. Come on.
Kumis is the national drink of Kyrgyzstan. Burul, Muscat's wife, is in charge of brewing the kumis. To produce the alcohol, she lets the mare's milk ferment for 2 weeks in a wooden keg or a leather pouch. At this altitude, trees are very scarce, so dried dung is the main fuel. Without the animals, life in the mountains wouldn't be possible.
When you grow up out in nature, you respect it. It's normal. For example, we burn only materials that are already dead. We don't divert streams, we don't pollute the water. Of course you have to respect nature. How can you not respect the earth? This breed of horse is called the Spotted Beauty. It's a chariot. Kyrgyzstan's original dappled horse. It has very good qualities. It's well adapted to the mountains. It has better hooves than the Russian horses. And it stands up better to winter out in the pasture. It's the Kyrgyz breed, a fine animal.
Muscat raises only Kyrgyz horses, a breed that nearly disappeared during the Soviet era on account of extensive crossbreeding with Russian horses. He decided to bring this breed back and to let the rest of the world know about the characteristics of this sturdy horse. Since 2009, he's been concentrating his efforts on the spotted horse, the charat in Kyrgyz.
It has a short mane compared to other horses. The other characteristics of the chariot are the pink spots on its snout and the white in their eyes. These are its distinguishing marks. Its eyes look like human eyes. Behaves like a human being. It's docile, intelligent. It has a number of good features. It's more than a friend. It's as if it were the human being closest to me. It's only a horse, but it has more qualities than a human.
Once a week during the mountain pasture season, all the men of the valley get together. They wouldn't miss their regular kokburu match for all the tea in China. This is the last match of the season, and Muscat, who is hosting it, is going to sacrifice a goat for the occasion. There's no leather-covered ball. They use a goat carcass weighing between 25 and 50 kilos. 2 teams, 2 goals. To score, a player has to drop the goat onto the adversary's goal. Kokburu is the ancestor of polo. This nomad game, which they have been playing in Central Asia for more than 2,500 years, could very well be the world's oldest team sport. It has become the national sport and is the pride of this people.
It's the Kyrgyz game, a wonderful game. It's in our blood because our ancestors played it all the time. That's why we're still playing it now. There are a lot of injuries. We break ribs. It happens a lot in Kokburu. When you hold the whip in your mouth and someone gives it a yank, you can lose some teeth. That's why I have gold teeth. We really get banged up.
We don't feel the pain. We don't know the meaning of fear.
It's a rough, violent game.
And the horses play just as hard.
If you fall from a galloping horse, you can really get hurt. It's very dangerous. Kyrgyzstan is the best. When we play against teams from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, or Tajikistan, we always come out on top. Their Kyrgyz are the best. It's because we have these strong, fast horses. That's why we always win.
Nothing goes to waste in Kyrgyzstan, so after the Kokburu match, they cook the tenderized meat and enjoy a meal all together. The meat is highly symbolic. They even say that it has curative powers. This is the last meal they'll all have together before the winter migration.
Muscat, we wish you and your family a happy departure from the Jelo, and we thank you for this meal.
Muscat is deeply attached to his horses, but to earn a living, he has to sell some off. It's market day in the nearby village. This is the first venture away from the herd for these 3-year-old colts. It's just a few minutes as the crow flies, but several hours by the rutted dirt roads that meander through the canyons and wind along the countless bends of the Kyrgyz mountains. Muscat's destination, not far from the lake Toktogul, is the village of the same name. People come from all over to the cattle market, to shop for tools, to sell their wool, to have a good time, or simply to admire certain curiosities of the animal kingdom.
How much you asking? 55.
But the big attraction of the day is Muscat with his handsome Kyrgyz charats. They're not even out of the truck, and already people are asking the price.
How much do you want? 55. How much? 55. It's an outstanding horse. Very beautiful. It's very rare to see such a horse.
It makes me a little sad, but I have to bring them here. I'd much rather not sell these beauties. I'd prefer to just keep on breeding them, rather than selling them, but I have no choice.
Are these your chariots?
Yes.
Chariots are so rare that they can be worth up to 10 times the average monthly salary here.
I used to have a chariot.
Really?
But she didn't produce any foals. At the time I saw her on a state farm, I begged them to sell her to me for the price of 2 horses. Now I don't have any more. How much are you asking?
110 for the 2.
110? Can you come down a little?
Make me an offer.
Would you take 50 each?
No.
Come down a little.
No, I can't.
51?
51? No, not possible.
We're not going to haggle. 52. Let's shake on that.
53, and that's my final offer.
53? Okay, it's a deal. Thank you for raising these horses. May the spirit of the animals protect you. Let's go.
Back at the Jelu, the weather has changed. Soon the high mountains will become unlivable.
Muscat, it's getting bad. The animals risk slipping on account of the snow. Bring them down. Saddle up your horse. We'll have to leave the Jilo in 2 or 3 days. There's nothing left to graze on this land. Get ready to head down, my son.
According to the Kyrgyz tradition, the youngest son is the sole heir. He has to take care of his parents and carry on the family's activity.
I inherited the herd from my father. Now my son has taken over. We can have as many animals as we want now. Back in the Soviet times, we could own only 1 horse, 1 cow, and 10 sheep.
Life in the Jelo is stripped to the essentials, and everyone pitches in with the chores. Burul also works tirelessly.
Sakral, check that the oven is closed. Close it, otherwise the bread will burn. Take those outside. Break them up and then bring them back. Close the yurt. There's something really special about the Jelu. I don't want to leave and go back down, but it's going to get cold, so we have no choice. If the summer could go on, I'd rather stay here. The mountain air is so pure. We always eat wholesome food here. Everything is better than in the towns. I hope things don't ever change up here.
There's some snow and fog up there. I had a hard time finding all the animals. There's only 1 herder left, and he'll be coming down in 2 to 3 days. It's time for us to move out too. If we stay any longer, it will snow and the animals will slip. It's too cold. We have to leave.
It's time to pack up and move down to a more clement altitude. Soon there'll be no trace left of their 5-month-long stay at the Jelu. It will take a few hours to break camp, then 3 days to herd the cattle down through the mountains.
This is the tunduk. It's the crown of the Kyrgyz yurt. For us, it's the symbol of everything good, of friendship and peace.
It's the most noble thing in our lives. It's sacred.
Kyrgyzstan, this small landlocked country, is made up of high plateaus surrounded by impassable mountains, an enclave of harsh serenity. The Tian Shan, literally the Celestial Mountains, rise to an altitude of 7,400 meters. Welcome to the realm of boundless peaks. These mountains form a jewel box enclosing inestimable treasures. Among the jewels is the Lake Isyk-Kul, 182 kilometers long. Here on the banks of this vast lake, the Kyrgyz falconers come to train their eagles. Bastien Che was charmed by this paradise of raptors.
Ever since I was little, I've been fascinated by these birds. Then, when I was 14, there was a turning point. Right near Oriol, the village where I lived, there was a couple of Bonelli's eagles nesting. So I began to observe them, on my own at first. Then, I started working on missions studying Bonelli's eagles. Later, I came to Kyrgyzstan in 2009 and 2010 to do a study of the royal eagle. So I've loved nature, and in particular birds of prey, for a long time now.
Bastien came to Kyrgyzstan for the first time 9 years ago. As an ornithologist and naturalist, he fell right in love with this country where the people are in such close contact with nature.
Go on, let her go.
Beauty, yes. This is a female. We have a special relationship. I'm the only person she accepts. I got her from her nest in the mountains. I raised her, took care of her. I'm like her father. She obeys my voice, and she's used to me feeding her. She follows me everywhere. Even if I left her behind, she'd find her way back home. Eagles really trust humans. There are so many things I love about Kyrgyzstan. But if I had to pick one, I would say the wide open spaces. The fact that there are still so many wild steppes and mountains that stretch as far as the eye can see. That there are entire ecosystems that exist side by side with human habitats just fascinates me. I like the unexplored aspect, and often the wildlife, like the snow leopard, the mouflons, and the large birds of prey. They live in fairly virgin territory, where there are still so many out-of-the-way spots just waiting to be discovered. That's what attracted me here.
The snow leopard is Kyrgyzstan's emblematic animal. King of the mountains, it can live at altitudes up to 6,000 meters.
This is a typical kind of rock where the leopards might mark their territory. There are several ways that they leave their mark. They often rub their neck against the rock to leave their scent, so sometimes we find fur stuck to the rock. Usually the rock is a bit polished at that spot. Then there are urinary markings, which you can see here. Again, it's to leave their scent. Sometimes there are scrape marks in the dirt, and then there are the droppings. So these are the four main ways for them to mark their territory.
The camera trap is an indispensable tool for studying the snow leopard, a species in great danger of extinction. It's one of the world's most difficult animals to observe. Being a naturalist means having a lot of passion, but above all, patience. In 9 years, Bastian has caught a glimpse of the predator in its natural habitat just once.
The very fact that it is so rare and difficult to spot is surely one of the things that fascinates me about the snow leopard. And it's true that we often compare the snow leopard to a ghost. In a way, it is the ghost of the mountains. From time to time, you'll see some traces, droppings, scratchings, and also they're captured by the camera traps, so we know they're out there, but it is really a ghost.
Bastien, a committed enthusiast, has been leading scientific expeditions for the NGO Objectif Science International since 2009. To make the youth of Kyrgyzstan aware of the environmental issues, the organism funds expeditions with youngsters from the Karakol orphanage who've lost contact with the world of nature. For the next few days, Beka, 16, Sasha, 13, and Zarina, 15, will be playing hooky from school.
I've never been to the mountains. This will be my very first time, and I'm really happy. I'm very curious about it. I can't wait to get there and see the wildlife.
It's their first time, so they don't know what to expect, but I'll be there to help them out. Really glad to be going.
They're off to the Sarishat Ertash Nature Reserve, a vast protected territory of 1,500 square kilometers close to the Chinese border.
The goal is to make these youngsters aware of the wildlife they have here in Kyrgyzstan, to have a good time in the mountains, to learn just what a reserve is, why we have to protect the wildlife, and to be conscious of the riches that they have here in their own country.
The reserve is far from everything. From the city of Karakol, it's a 7-hour journey over dirt roads. They have to go over a first pass at 3,800 meters, a second at 4,000 meters, cross the high plateaus, and trust the driver not to get lost in this mountainous maze. The expeditions, named Panteha, last 10 days. They're accompanied by a park ranger and 2 supervisors. Their itinerary through the reserve is a total immersion in a natural setting that is as wild as it is hostile.
Often the people who live in the town of Karakol, or even in the villages, rarely go into the mountains, although they may live no more than 20 or even 10 kilometers away. Sometimes it's surprising to find out that these kids have never ridden a horse, or that they haven't necessarily seen hares or marmots, even though Karakol is really attached to the mountains. So this is a chance to show them all this, and for them to become familiar with these landscapes, so that later they may want to protect them. I need an assistant.
These teenagers are about to experience their first bivouac, 4,000 meters up.
A reserve is a protected place where there are wild animals and where hunting's not allowed. The mission covers 150 hectares, and according to the genetic analyses, it's home to around 20 snow leopards.
Here?
Yes, at least 20. When we find droppings, we put them into this and send them to the laboratory. They study it and find out if it's from a male or a female, and also the age of the animal. Here's something I haven't shown you yet. You want to see? You see that peak? You can see the bird up there. Baker, you see it? For me, taking kids up into the mountains, as we do on these expeditions, allows me to transmit my passions just as others did for me when I was their age. I really feel like I'm passing on what was given to me, and that feels very good.
Today's mission will be a challenge. The team has to collect a camera trap that was placed on a ridge during a previous expedition. At 4,500 meters altitude, the cold and mountain sickness affects people as well as horses. The air is thin and the conditions are difficult, but that doesn't dampen the enthusiasm of these youngsters eager for knowledge and adventure.
You know why we placed it here and not somewhere else?
Because animals pass by this spot often?
Right. You see this narrow path? The mouflons and the leopards like to roam ridges like this one, where they can see out on both sides. From up here, the mouflons can keep an eye out for wolves.
So this is the animal's path?
Yes, that's right. Sasha, could you hold on to that? So, what's this?
I know what that is.
That's a big male argali.
I saw a female.
There are a lot, huh?
At least 15.
There are males and females.
Here in Kyrgyzstan, Bastien has found the wide open spaces worthy of his deep love of nature. Now that the expeditions are drawing to a close and the whole country is getting ready to face the winter, he will go back to his second great passion.
Right now, my life is divided between France and Kyrgyzstan. I spend from May to October in Kyrgyzstan, then from November to April, I'm a shepherd in southern France. I herd merino sheep. So my passion is all about animals, wild ones as well as domestic ones, and wide open spaces. What I like is being able to combine shepherding, the great outdoors, and the wilderness.
Through the dust and heat of the dirt tracks in the south, one can sometimes catch sight of an odd vehicle. It's the all-terrain İBİLİM bus. On board are İlyas Uzunov and Kuban Moidinov, a pair of enthusiastic buddies.
Kuban, how many more kilometers? 70 or 80. This project takes us out on the road for about 15 days a month. There are 15 pilot villages, and we stop at each one. It takes a good 3 weeks of work to do our circuit.
Bilim in Kyrgyz means knowledge. İBİLİM is a mobile digital library. Its mission is to provide information and education to the most isolated communities of Narin province. The bookmobile pulls into the Jelo of Tashrabat. Back in the days of the Silk Road, many traders would stop here. Like a pair of veteran house movers, İlyas and Kuban repeat the same gestures tirelessly as they unpack their modest treasures. Some books, 4 computers, a generator, and a healthy dose of goodwill.
Step right up, kids. How's it going?
They set up right in the middle of the Jelo, where they'll be staying for 2 days and offering all sorts of services free of charge.
We have a very rich display of information on the economy, agriculture, animal husbandry, on children, IT, on a wide range of vocational training. We also have information on human rights and reports on the international organizations working here in Kyrgyzstan. We cover all subjects: biology, chemistry, English, mathematics, geography.
The program also offers adults a chance to inform and educate themselves.
It's very useful, not only up here in the mountains, but also down in the villages, where they don't have any libraries like this. And when they bring all this up into the mountains for the children, well, I think it's just wonderful. Just look at the kids, how happy they are. You have one on the computer, the others are reading books and looking at the pictures. We're really happy and very grateful to them.
Before embarking on the İBİLİM adventure, İlyas worked for the UN on programs fighting hunger and poverty. He's very committed and works hard for his dream of a better world.
You see, there are books in Kyrgyz. This is a children's encyclopedia. You want to read it? You have the animals, when they evolved, where they live. It's important for the population to receive an education. If a human being is educated, so many things in life become possible. If our children are educated, they will have an influence when they're adults. They will contribute to the development of the country and will make it prosper. They'll take an active part in society, and they'll become responsible adults. Okay, kids, put down your books. Now I'm going to show you an educational cartoon.
Librarian, IT worker, projectionist. Ilya's visits are always appreciated, especially by the youngsters. During the Soviet era, the Kyrgyz language was pushed aside, especially in the cities where Russian took over. Kyrgyz is now gradually coming back into favor.
We also have an electronic Kyrgyz dictionary. We look up the old words and tell people the definitions. In general, we offer the children's books and audiovisual material in Kyrgyz. We make an effort to promote the language because it's our mother tongue.
The caravanserai of Tashrabat, nestled in a mountain valley, is one of Central Asia's most impressive stone constructions. In the footsteps of centuries of travelers, Ilyas and Kuban explore the bowels of the ancient building. It was most likely built by Christian monks in the 10th century. Religion, carried over the Great Silk Road, spread all the way to the Far East. They say that there's a secret tunnel leading to China on the other side of the mountains. Its strange architecture and isolated location have given rise to many legends.
Ilyas, what is it? Look, check it out. It must be 7-8 meters deep. I think that's where they threw the really naughty people, so they would come to their senses, no? It looks like it goes on like a tunnel. This building is really something.
There never was one single Silk Road, but rather a complex network of routes crossing the highest mountains and the most hostile deserts. In addition to merchandise, these routes also carried beliefs and myths. For more than 15 centuries, they transported people, missionaries and artists, traders and pilgrims. Central Asia was a veritable crossroads of civilizations. Since the collapse of the Soviet Union and the opening of Kyrgyzstan's borders, exchanges of all kinds have begun again. Every day, the bookmobile takes this modern-day Silk Road. The Odyssey of Ilyas brings back memories of bygone days. In the north of Narin lies Min Bulak, the Thousand Springs, a little rural village like so many others. But for Ilyas, it's much more than an oasis of tranquility. It embodies his personal history.
I spent 90% of my life here. As the saying goes, it's where my umbilical cord fell, and it's where I grew up. It's a sacred place. I always love coming back here. The village of Minbulak wasn't part of our circuit, but I decided to bring the project here and work the village into our schedule once a month.
What's all that?
We have books. Just hold on.
Oh, books, books. They look brand new. There is some great stuff. You have any games? Stop pushing.
Wait, no fighting. I grew up here. I attended this school from first grade all the way through high school. It's not just a simple school for me. It's much more than that. Hi there, kids. My name is Ilyas. I'm the coordinator of the E-Bilim project run by the University of Central Asia. Erlan here came along with us. He's going to give you a little presentation of the traditional Kyrgyz musical instruments.
Do you know these instruments? Everybody? You know them all? Who would like to become a musician? To learn all this? Everybody? That's great. But just playing an instrument isn't enough. It takes talent to perpetuate the tradition. This is a wooden jaw harp. This instrument is over 2,000 years old. A very old instrument. Did you hear the cuckoo? When?
At the end.
Yes, cuckoo.
Music was one of the cornerstones of nomadic society. For a long time, the Russians imposed their fashions, their instruments, and their scales. Since independence, the Kyrgyz have reclaimed their cultural heritage, and now they teach mainly the traditional instruments.
You see how skillful our ancestors were. To play it, you have to place your tooth here and play with your tongue. The air spins around. It's very hard to learn. It takes time. This is the mother of all flutes. What's it called?
It's a Reno.
Let's move on. Know how to play it? You want to try? Try to blow. Bravo. Very good.
The komuz is highly symbolic of Kyrgyzstan. It has recovered its former status and is now once again the most popular instrument.
I love my job. It makes me happy. It may be just a small contribution, but I'm proud to be making it an education. We give the necessary information to the children, to the adults as well, and to the professors who live in these remote regions. And that fills me with joy.